Hello everybody, it's Holger Mueller here from Constellation Research here in Boston at IBM 2025, sitting with two important people when it comes to databases on IBM.
If you say so.
I say so. There's no discussion. Welcome to Edward Calvesbert and Miran Badzak. Thanks for being here. And you had some exciting things to say today. I mean, we even had your CEO, Arvind Krishna, this morning talk about data, Lakehouse data.
Absolutely.
Yeah, tell us more about that.
Yeah, so watsonx.data is our hybrid open data lakehouse for Gen AI and analytics. And what we're announcing today is that we're going to be supporting unstructured and structured data within the same lakehouse architecture. That's going to help clients avoid creating additional data silos for Gen AI and really unify and unlock the value of all of their data for agentic AI, Gen AI, as well as all their traditional analytical workloads.
Yeah, super important, super strategic for customers. Everybody talks about AI in 2025. Everybody knows, you can ask a school child, like, what makes the AI good? It's the data.
Yes.
And most companies don't have the data repository, which are the lake houses, data lakes, whatever they'll be calling right now. But there's also the structural side. You said correctly, unstructured and structured data coming for the first time together, which is super strategic, because I would like to say, remember in the 90s, there was data mining. The showcase was diapers and beer, right? For the people who don't know, right? It was like the freshly meant fathers would drive home, get the call to get some diapers, and then you would put the beer next to the diapers, and all of a sudden you would spike in beer sales, right? Which you normally wouldn't do in a supermarket. I think if you give an enterprise a data lakehouse, and people can use tools to look what's in there, there's 1,000+ diapers and beer moments, which people could just not find. We always thought there might be, but it was always siloed intelligence. First of all, structured data, unstructured data, then different functional silos and so on. And now it's all flat, which is wonderful, right? But the transactional part comes from the DB2 side.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you know, DB2 is our flagship database relational product. And we've had some amazing announcements this week as well around AI and around hybrid cloud. Those are sort of our two strategic imperatives for IBM. So around hybrid cloud, we announced the availability of DB2 and DB2 RS on Azure.
Okay.
That's going to be coming as a managed service through an innovative new channel and model called BYOC, Bring Your Own Cloud.
Walk me through what does it mean, DB2 on Azure.
So what that means is customers that are deploying DB2 and DB2 as managed services, the service itself, the service itself is running in the customer's own account on Azure. Okay. So what that means is that the customer is in full control over their security posture, full control over their data, full control of their infrastructure. They're in the driver's seat, and we are still providing the same managed services for those customers and getting the same value prop as a traditional SaaS model.
So I don't have to have the DB2 deep knowledge, whatever, to run it.
Bingo.
You guys, IBM is running that for me as a customer. At the same time, I get the benefits of the cloud in terms of availability, elasticity, and so on.
Exactly right. So that's on the hybrid cloud side. On the AI side, I know we've been talking a lot about AI this week, as expected. We also announced two new capabilities to the DB2 engine. This is going to be the ability to store vector embeddings natively in DB2 and to be able to do similarity search on those vector embeddings or those vector data types.
Like, what are some typical use cases for that?
So there's a ton of different use cases here. You can do financial transactions, for example. You can do fraud detection. If you're running an e-commerce site, for example, you can do product recommendations and product recommendation engines. You can do image search, image matching, people matching, all sorts of different applications come out of the woodwork as a result. Yeah,
it kind of like humanizes and makes accessible via Gen AI full language.
Exactly.
Transactional data. Right? Exactly. It finds proximity on the data.
Exactly. And one of the demos that we've been showing this week has been an app that's effectively an e-commerce site that our team built in about 6 hours.
Nice.
And with one SQL statement, we were able to put together a recommendation engine essentially for that e-commerce site. And with that one SQL statement, we can take a look at, for example, all the parameters that we vectorized. We can go search for all of the items that are like that item, and so very, very quickly provide value to customers.
Yep. All the way down to one SQL statement, right? Tell us a little more on the unstructured data. What can we put in the, is data lake, lakehouse, how you call it?
Lakehouse.
It's new for me, a lakehouse, right?
Lakehouse, yeah.
Lakehouse, yeah.
Yeah, so Lakehouse is, you combine a lake with a warehouse.
Right.
That's where Lakehouse comes from,
exactly.
right? So it's giving you flexibility and the cost advantages of the lake with the performance and usability advantages of the warehouse, in a new architecture. Unstructured data is most enterprise data, right? So our studies show around 90%. it's also the most underutilized enterprise data because the structured data for transactional workloads as well as analytics is highly curated.
Right.
Reference data, the enterprise's most important data is usually in structured sources. But there's so much more data out there that we can bring in, and really new insights and new applications emerge from the combination of reference data, right, with new data sources. To your point of the diapers and the beers.
Yeah.
So what the unstructured data capability is going to allow us to do is to connect to where that data, where it is, right, whether it's in Box or FileNet or SharePoint or Slack or email, right, all these other sources, right, which play the role of the transactional database in this unstructured use case. Then we ingest that data, we extract all the entities and values that are in those documents, right, and it could be important numbers, dates, important entities, right, names. We extract all that, and then we use our data intelligence technology to normalize those schemas. Okay, so to take all that noisy data from unstructured data sources, normalize it into a structured source, right?
Very good.
But we also decorate it. We also enrich it with additional descriptions, really make the schema a lot more usable for text to SQL, for LLMs to be able to use their technology to be able to understand it. And then what we do is we correlate the structured and the unstructured. So we'll have metadata like a record ID that originates from the source system, that's propagated to the structured derivative as well as the unstructured derivative, which means we can reassemble it. Okay, so you were talking about one SQL statement. We do the same thing, but we do it with a more deconstructed architecture, a Lakehouse architecture. And that does two things. Number one, it drives greater accuracy. So we're benchmarking 40% increases in accuracy than traditional vector-only RAG by using this unstructured and structured combination. And the reason that's really important is because you're going to need it when you go beyond informational use cases and into analytical and agentic or operational use cases as GenAI continues to proliferate in the types of workloads that it can support.
Correct.
As well as making that unstructured data available to traditional Lakehouse analytics. So BI, data engineering, data products, machine learning, right? So it has this dual benefit, and it gives our customers access to 90% of their data, which they need in order to customize AI and really be a source of competitive advantage.
It's so interesting because if something of importance happens in the enterprise, it goes in a transaction database, right? Like our employment record is in transaction database, but how it came to that entry, like how many interviews, how many performance reviews, how many calls of references and so on, that's all in the document world. If I want to paint the full picture, I want to hire someone exactly like that. If I only have the record, I have nothing, right? If I only have the calendar appointments, I have a little more, right? But if I have the interviews, if I can crunch those, right? What were the conversations we had? What were the references we used and so on? I get this so much more richer piece, which AI loves, right? AI loves to run, right? And it's a big difference from last year, 2024, right? Where we were all about what GenAI could do. And it was amazing to take care of the document world, right? It couldn't look in transactional databases. Now with vectorization, one of the key things you're delivering for DB2, that's all accessible.
Absolutely.
Do you leave the data in place for the data lake in the original system? Like you mentioned Box, long-term IBM partner, right? You leave it there and you just index it?
That's a great point. So we do not take over the management of the data from the source system. The document continues to live in the document management system, which is, by the way, very dynamic, right?
Of course.
Version control, user authorizations, it ends up in folders in different places, right? So that continues to happen. We create derivatives, okay? So we literally call them correlated derivatives of that data. One of them goes into the vector store. Another one, correlated with the record ID, goes into an iceberg table, right? And then that gets reconstituted when we do what's called hybrid retrieval. So we're querying both the vector store and the iceberg table, and that's what drives to the greater accuracy that I was mentioning before.
That's one of the key architecture things to look. If you move the data, copy it, and then have to update it, and you deal with outdated data, or if you query it every time, but you take the hit, right? One of the conversations we often have on the transaction system side is, right, those systems are optimized to run at 60, 70% performance, right? Now I unleash all my agents. All of a sudden, my transactional application, I can't close my books, right? I can't find my people. So it's going to be an interesting design thing we see in the second half as Lakehouses, like you mentioned, are being offered. and the whole ETL only lookup, materialized views in between, or the brutal copy with Delta. And it's great that you guys support Iceberg as one of the emerging key standards for that.
Yeah, and DB2 as well. I know we we spoke about that earlier as well. We've invested heavily in support for Iceberg within the DB2 engine. So now we have within DB2 we speak full spec Iceberg from here on out. And so we're taking a look at watsonx data, for example, in DB2, being able to interplay between the different engines. So I can share data from DB2 with my Lakehouse user. I can promote data from the Lakehouse into my DB2, sort of have full interplay between the engines. Very
interesting. You had one more new announcement, I think, on the DB2 side.
Oh, I did. Glad you remembered. So we announced today also the coming availability of a brand new product called DB2 Intelligence Center. This is a brand new database, really database management solution for DBAs.
Okay.
And in addition to the sort of the typical feature set of monitorings, dashboards, alerting, all of that good stuff, really at the heart of this new product is a new database assistant for DBAs. And we targeted this specifically to address the needs and the pain points of our database administrators as they're managing fleets of, single instances or fleets of DB2 databases.
That's great.
And so what this is a new conversational AI assistant that's built right into the product. And we've already built a ton of skills into that new product, so you can answer questions about DB2 itself. It can help me troubleshoot problems. It could help me pull telemetry data, for example, from my DB2 database. I can ask it, for specific statistics, and it'll visualize those statistics for me.
Yep.
And then we're working on evolving that technology to provide even more value to our DBAs. And that is using under the covers. It's using watsonx, and it's using our Granite LLMs, all under the covers. Our watsonx Orchestrate as the underpinning technology. So
it's
we're
great to see the synergies with other
absolutely
IBM coming
together.
Well, I think there's we spend a lot of time talking about data for AI, right? But there's another direction of that, AI for data. So actually using LLMs and traditional machine learning to make the data management problem a lot easier, right? To automate a lot of the tedious tasks, right? To make everything more performant, more accessible, and that's a huge part of what LLMs are bringing to data.
One of the big challenges enterprises had with big data technology, data lakes, which became data swamps, were not updated. There were islands which had no reference to something else, but were costing storage. I think AI will be very, very powerful, and we'll see this in the second half of this year. As the platforms are there, AI will help to manage and solve the data problem. I think the days when we talk about data problem,
absolutely.
we just said this funny thing, like you were the lucky one with only a clear last name, right? We have last names which were changed coming to the US, right? Figuring out that Mueller with UE is the same with Mueller like with two dots. Right?
Yes.
I mean, it's not rocket science, right? I mean, you can't even call this AI, right?
Yeah.
Very interesting. So let me ask you this. In your wildest dreams, if everything goes great, right? Whatever, tariffs, no tariffs, forget it. Everything is perfect, right? If in 1 year, in 2026, we sit again here at Think, what will have happened with the products you released, announced, made available now?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're really focused on liberating unstructured data, right?
Yeah.
And that's a relatively new thing, but if we can make just a small fraction, right, of that enterprise data highly accessible, high quality, trusted, and usable for agentic AI or for Gen AI apps, there's so much opportunity there. So I think that problem is just getting started. Beyond that, I think a semantic layer, which is one of the enabling technologies of combining structured and unstructured data, right? I think there's a lot of work applying Gen AI to creating semantic layers, right? To making the data silos problem go away. So the Lakehouse does a pretty good job of unifying it, but you still have to be on that core technology, right? We know clients have data everywhere, and that's not changing overnight, right? But if you can create a semantic layer, right, that's able to intermediate queries wherever they're sourced, and figure out, hey, where's this data? What's the best way to access it? What's the right SQL dialect to use, or is it Python, or is it something else? Really creating an abstraction, a performant abstraction that makes that data silos problem just kind of like dissipate.
Perfect, excellent. Yeah, great.
Yeah, and I think for DB2, we're on a mission to help our customers leverage the data that they've had in DB2 for many years now, to unlock it for new applications, new AI workloads, new services, and I'm super excited to see what our customers are able to build and what they build a year from now. Because I think the technology and the possibilities are absolutely endless. I talked about that one example of an e-commerce site, a recommendation engine, something that would have taken a team of data scientists potentially months to do. We're able to do in a matter of seconds. So the number of applications and the number of use cases, I think, is just enormous, and the potential is just enormous. So I am really excited to see what our customers build, and I'm hoping to bring some of them here to, I think, next year and have them show that off.
That's a good plan. The most exciting thing on having a Lakehouse data lake announcement is, even if you're on the edge of AI, where's a data center, LMs, my data might not be safe and so on, it's a no-brainer to build a Lakehouse. Yeah, because already the analytics insights of the company will make every CIO a popular person in the enterprise, because for the first time people could see this. All the rest you can decide at your own pace when you're going to do more AI, less AI. I see a big potential. Actually, there's one IT strategy from my view for this. You have to go to the Lakehouse. You do your AI things if you want to, but it's also your global instance. Right? Many companies have issues with their ERP systems, which are all in countries set up and compatible and going through a tour de force around the world. To upgrade them is 5, 6, 10 years. Right? So go to the global data. Right? You leave your local ERP systems only for statutory reasons. Right? Push the data, invert the flow the other way around, and then do a global system and go from there. So there's only one IT strategy.
I agree with you, but I'm biased.
Yeah, but I'm not biased. Yeah, and then I've been telling this to customers for a long time now. Finally, now the lake houses, data lakes, whatever they were called before, are available. So it's an exciting time. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure chatting with you.
Likewise.